Hello there, one and all, and thank you very much for tuning into episode 565 of Love at First Scent with me, Persolaise, live on YouTube. Regardless of whether you're watching the live or you're watching the recording, you are very, very welcome. Thank you for tuning in. First comment goes to Alex, who says, "Hello again, Mr. P, and everyone. Thanks for tuning in." Alex, thanks for always being so prompt and what's the other word I'm looking for? Never mind, it'll come to me. I should try not to lack words now, because I want to be able to use as many words as possible to describe these guys here. That looks very interesting, says Alex. I've unfortunately never heard of this brand. Ah, well, in that case, I'm really, really glad that I've finally got round to doing this showcase, because the brand has been around for a while, and I'm sure a lot of people watching this video will have heard of it, but I expect there are also going to be a few like you who haven't. So that's you know, I feel sort of vindicated or validated now that I should be doing this. Gichunk says hello. Dushan says hello as well. Maria says, "I love Manakara and Tihota." Hello back, Papa, says Fahmi. Holly is here as well. So is Alex. And Mort Violette says, "I'm excited to hear your thoughts on Indult." Okay, let's get straight into it. The second and final of our showcase videos for today. Oh, I'll do one more comment. Gichunk says, "Isvaraya is my favourite winter sweet plum jasmine patchouli." Okay. A few weeks ago, I think, or has it already been maybe a couple of months? Well, definitely in 2025, at some point this year, I did a review of Indult's Queer 404. I've popped a link to that particular review in the video description below, so we won't spend a lot of time talking about that one. But I did Queer 404 because it is the current iteration, the current version of a scent that this brand released quite some time ago called Rêve en Cuir. And when I did that video review of Queer 404, I said that for the longest time I've been meaning to do a showcase of Indult, because it is a brand that clearly, patently, a lot of you have heard of, a lot of you are aware of, but some of you haven't. And it's a brand that is generally very, very highly regarded, but is also in some ways quite under the radar. It's not one of those brands that shouts in order to draw attention to itself. So finally, today we are going to do it. I'm going to talk about the three other scents that they have in their collection currently: Tihota, Manakara and Isvaraya. Now, what makes the brand interesting is that, and if you know the brand you probably already know this, is that it was actually founded by Francis Kurkdjian. He of Le Mal, superstar perfumer of his generation, widely considered to be one of the most successful, if not the successful perfumers of his generation, founder of his own Maison Francis Kurkdjian, and currently in-house perfumer at none other than Dior. But before Dior, before MFK, he founded Indult. And I think the first perfumes from Indult were released in 2006, and they were Tihota, Manakara and Isvaraya. Rêve en Cuir apparently came out 2 years later in 2008. Alex says, "Oh, they're from Francis Kurkdjian." Yes, they are. So that is already one very, very big reason for them being interesting. Ula says, "Never heard of them, but seeing your enthusiasm, I'm excited." Second person, brilliant. "I've only tested Tihota," says Holly, "and found it beautiful but boring." Okay, well, that's a conversation we could have in a few moments. And then the story goes that a few years after Kurkdjian founded the brand and launched the scents, his interests, his kind of creative ideas and his business ideas went a different way. And then, of course, round about, 2008, 2009, he founded Maison Francis Kurkdjian. And I guess there was no room anymore for Indult in his world. And he decided he would just let it dwindle away. Now, enter an English gentleman called Kim Charles. And as I say, the story goes that Kim Charles happened to bump into Francis Kurkdjian, who said that he was just going to let Indult go. And then Kim Charles said, "Well, I happen to have a bit of money in my back pocket. Can I buy the brand from you?" And he did. And ever since then, Kim Charles has been the owner of the brand. And it's almost as though he's been looking after this Francis Kurkdjian legacy it is Kurkdjian who reformulated Rêve en Cuir for them into Cuir 404. I guess, he did that on the basis of the fact that he was the author of the first perfume. Now, I don't know where the brand is going to go from here, whether they're just going to stick to these 4 perfumes or whether they're going to start working with different perfumers. But if they are going to do the latter, I thought this is a perfect opportunity for us to do a showcase of the entirety of their current portfolio, the portfolio as it stands at the moment. Milad says, here in Tehran, at the very specific cafe that I'm sitting in now, everyone is smelling Aventus. Yours truly as well. Well, enjoy it. There are obviously lots of people out there who love Aventus. David says, unpopular opinion, but I think Kurkdjian's reputation is unwarranted. Oh, I thought you meant the perfume, because his latest perfume for his own brand is actually called Kurkdjian, isn't it? I haven't smelt it. That's a whole other debate, isn't it, David? Regardless of whether or not it's unwarranted, I think your view of his reputation is shared by quite a few people out there. I mean, Sally Hughes, the well-known Guardian journalist, when she came on this channel to do an interview a good few years ago now, she actually said that even though she likes a lot of Kurkdjian's scents and admires them in a more sort of objective, intellectual way, she has yet to fall in love with a single one. And I can kind of see what she means. I have fallen in love with a few of his from his own range. As you know, I adore Absolu pour le soir. I love his first oud. I thought that was a very, very interesting take on oud. I think Le Mal for Gaultier, I never wore it, but I thought it was great. I did adore, and still do adore, Fleur du Mal that he did for Jean-Paul Gaultier. Why that was discontinued, I mean, I suppose I know actually why it was discontinued, because it was way too floral and way too out there for a mainstream masculine, but just beautiful, and I still have a couple of bottles in my collection. So yeah, I do really, really, really like a lot of his work. I think Jean-Paul Gaultier Classique is beautiful in what it does. I'm racking my brains now, trying to think whether I have actually fallen in love with anything that he's done for Dior lately. I mean, Au Noir, obviously, I love. I mean, that was... So yeah, there are a few there. But maybe what you're saying, David, is that his reputation would have us believe that, almost every other thing that he's created has been some kind of genius monster hit. And I guess that hasn't been the case. I don't know. Dushan says, David, ignore the Kurkdjian or send it to Turkey. Often says, Le Mal is an important perfume, I would say, even though I have memories of people overspraying it to death. I think some people still do. Teenage boys still do. What are you folks saying? Alex says, I have the Fleur du Mal and I'm saving it for special occasions. Yeah, that was beautiful. Kichung says, Francis Kurkdjian is the new classic, but not everything is spectacular. Anyway, let us see what he did here in 2006 for Indult. Let's start with the most famous one. The most famous one is Tihota. By the way, if anybody knows the story behind the names, I would love to be enlightened. I'll see. Perhaps we'll go on the look at the sort of marketing blur. Perhaps that explains it. Tihota is very famous for being like one of the grandest, most unashamedly sweet vanillic scents ever made, but it's good stuff. Each time I smell this, I think of walking past, and I always picture myself as a child when I think of this. For anybody who might get a reference to Warsaw, there was a kind of sweet shop. I mean, it's long gone now, on Górczewska Street. It was like a lot of these places in Warsaw. It was actually in the basement of a small apartment block, and oh my goodness, because I had family who lived there, I used to end up on that street quite often, and the smells that would come from there, that whole burnt sugar smell, the icing sugar smell, yeasty smells of something being baked, bready, doughy smells, all of that comes through in Tihota. It's also got a kind of milky, almondy, creamy feel. it's kind of on the level of, if you only want to have one gourmand in your collection, this needs to be the one, because it remains convincing all the way through. I remember a few years ago when Prada Candy came out. The reason I was so impressed with Candy, even though I would never have worn it, and I wouldn't necessarily even have gifted it to many people that I knew, but it did what it did extremely well. That candy note, the caramelized note, was just spot on and photo real and melded to skin perfectly. Another person who can do gourmands very, very well, of course, is Olivier Crespe. I think of Bake for Acro from a couple of years ago. Tihota has absolutely got that feel completely sewn up, and yet it also somehow manages to smell quite refined and quite elegant and quite grown up, and that's an interesting balance. What do they say about it? I will tell you what they say. Tihota is a fascinating work of a master perfumer who has perfectly captured the essence of the pure nature of fresh vanilla, harnessing it in such a beautiful way. An exquisite set of Tahitian vanilla. Maybe the Tihota comes from I don't know, Tahiti, enveloped in sugarcane syrup, nuanced by a touch of white musk, evolving into a magical, long-lasting dry down that inspires an obsessive devotion to those who wear it. The result is unique. An unbridled vanilla, sweet, raw, and achingly desirable, whose delicious simplicity makes it one of the most coveted vanilla fragrances in perfumery. And for a lot of people, it is their ultimate vanilla scent. It's nicely done. It's really, really nicely done. More Violette says, so the hype around Tihota is justified. I'm almost surprised. Well, I mean, I don't quite... I would say it is. But even though it's sweet and vanillic and evokes these childhood memories, there is still something about it that is also quite elegant. So, you know how Mugler's Angel is an amazing scent, a groundbreaking scent, huge gourmand, but it's not elegant. There is nothing about Angel, I think, that's elegant. Angel is way too loud to be elegant. Its whole charm is that it's actually quite vulgar. It's cleavage, push-up bra, cleavage that doesn't even need a push-up bra. That's how Angel operates. Tihota is a vanillic dessert at insert haute pâtisserie of your choice. Let's say La Durée back when it was still really, really good. So no, I am impressed with it. Filippo says, too one-dimensional though. Oh, do you think so? See, I think there is enough going on there for me to say that it's more than one-dimensional. Anyway, let's move on. Oh, Dushan, the word Tihota comes from Slavic languages and it means silence. But in this context as well? I don't know, does it? Or is that some weird coincidence? Holly says, I do not layer perfumes, but have heard that those who do love Tihota for that purpose. Yeah, I can see that. I can see it being a good layering scent. Next, let's do Manakara, also from 2006. I think from the original trio, it's actually this one that for me is the least interesting. Because that vanilla is so huge and so photoreal and so delicious, I don't mind the fact that it starts heading a little bit towards the kind of monolithic in Tihota. Whereas Manakara, I think, is a bit simpler. Manakara sees Kurkdjian exploring the intersection between lychee and rose and red berries and kind of sticky, syrupy sorts of fruit. It's actually fascinating smelling these as well as Kurkdjian perfumes and thinking of the aesthetic that he's followed in his own MFK line. Because I don't think there's anything from the main MFK perfumes. That whole MFK line has become very, very urbane, very office scent-like, very much concerned with not being too shouty, not being too in your face. He was exploring different facets of his creativity here. Maybe he felt that in 2006 that's what you needed to do. The MFK vibe, I can't believe I actually just used that word. I hate using that word, but anyway, you know what I mean. The MFK aesthetic and the MFK sensibility is, I think, trying to be a bit more contemporary, a bit more urbane. I mean, I've used that word already. Gichunk says, to me is too linear as well, not an evolutional one. But do you mean this one, or do you mean Tihota? What do they say about Manakara? So Manakara's allure and beauty are unsettling, a perfect and delicate balance of two olfactive alter egos. The Damascena rose, a precious flower that is only picked at first light in the morning from the heights of the Rose Valley, perfectly combined with the delicious sweet lychee of Madagascar, then subtly layered by a touch of berry and musk. This magnetic and feminine fragrance is the quintessence of flower-fruit union. Okay, I think that's probably overselling it a little bit, but it's very, very attractive, very, very pretty, and kind of unashamedly feminine, in a way that maybe Kurkdjian hasn't allowed himself to be. Manakara is a city in Madagascar, says Maria. Ah, okay, well that makes sense. Thank you very much. Thank you very much indeed. And we'll finish with the one that I think is the most interesting out of the original trio. My current favourite is Queer 404. I think it's a really, really beautifully done leather. But let's finish with Isvaraya. And I wonder if you'd agree, I think Isvaraya from the original trio is probably the most complex and the most abstract. And so I guess that's why to my nose it's the most interesting. There's more stuff going on here than in the other ones. And I think you could almost see this as a precursor to the oud that he made for his signature line. There's something peppery here, there's something woody, definitely something musky, something irisy, and something, a kind of feeling of restrained heat. I think it's really, really attractive, really, really fascinating. It's kind of interiors and exteriors, it's night and day, it's in between spaces. You kind of think that it's heading in an indolic direction with something jasmine-like, but then it kind of goes into something more bark-like and more woody. Smelling it now, I'm almost wondering if you can kind of detect the beginnings of Baccarat Rouge 540 here as well. Not a scent that I'm crazy about, but as we know, has been a huge hit. This one's interesting. Gichunk says, I own Isvaraya and it's my magic potion. It's full of vibes and rich, super rich scent. Ah, okay, interesting. Interesting that you kind of pick up on that complexity in the same way that I do. What do they say about Isvaraya? It represents a harmonious triptych of notes, a delicate balance between a radiant and playful aura. From the sweet scent of Indian plum, yeah, definitely kind of fruity, not in an opium way, but maybe in a kind of Lubin Idole type way. Sticky, woody fruit. From the sweet scent of Indian plum to the enchanting beauty of jasmine sambac, all grounded by the soft and sensual touch of patchouli. Thank you, yes. Definitely. But all done in this abstract, really hauntingly abstract way. It creates a divine and complex bouquet that it completes the collection with a colourful twist. Please, 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 somebody, before we finish the video, tell me why it's called Isvaraya. Is that a place as well? David says, is Manakara Kurkdjian's take on Parfum de Marly Delina? I don't know, but I mean, it predates Delina by quite some way, doesn't it? Isvaraya means divine, says Maria. Ah, thank you. So what about Tihota? Is that just meant to refer to Tahiti? Is that what that is? Okay, let's do the pre-spray blotters, because I know that some people feel these don't last as long as they would like them to. So I won't smell the vanilla first because that's so huge. Let's actually go to Manakara first. Tihota is silent. What does it really mean, silence? You know for a fact that the brand refers to it as silence, Dushan. I thought maybe it was just a coincidence. Why would it be called silence? Anyway, so, Manakara. It's become quite woody, quite musky. I can't say that I'm detecting a lot of rose. To me, it's the one of the three that I find the easiest to dismiss. But it's still attractive. As a dry down, it is attractive. Isvaraya, what's Isvaraya doing? Tihota is sugar, says Maria. Okay, now I don't know who's right now. Isvaraya. Yeah. See, this is doing something, it's almost, it's really, really strange, because it's doing something almost citrusy with the patchouli, which is not a description you hear me using very often about the patchouli. Whether that's something to do with the kind of musks that he's used, whether that's something to do with the jasmine material linking up with the patchouli, it's a very, very, very interesting and quite distinctive dry down, and difficult to express in terms that aren't perfume-like, because I was trying to think, what is it? What kind of colour is it, or what sort of texture is it? It could be somewhere between linen and a very, 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 very fine cotton, and to me it's a kind of liminal space. It's very definitely afternoon turning to night, twilight. The deliciousness of a moment of indecision, of indecisiveness, the power that comes with not making a decision. That's what I kind of get here, and maybe that's why it's meant. Maybe that's why it's evoking ideas of the sacred, the divine. The kind of intersection between us and the divine. I don't know. Really, really interesting. Really interesting. And then let's see what Tihota is doing. More Violette says Tihota means sugar in Polynesian. Okay, I would imagine they're probably going for that meaning. Tihota, yeah, it's sweet, but it's lovely. It's delicious, and it's Moorish, and it doesn't become sickly, and it doesn't go too heavy with the musks, and it presents its vanilla very, very, very lucidly, very convincingly, very, very commendably. It's a great vanilla. It's a really, really great, sweet, gourmand vanilla perfume. Right. If you haven't already subscribed to this channel, please do consider doing so. Click on the little bell so that you get notifications about new videos. Please do consider subscribing to my Substack. Up on the Substack now, the latest post is a review of the current version of Dior Homme Parfum, which is also by Francis Kurkdjian. And if you've enjoyed the video, please consider giving it a thumbs up, because that really helps with the old YouTube algorithm. Whether you're watching well, you're not going to be watching the live now because we're done, but if you're watching the recording, feel free to leave a comment, ask a question. I usually get round to them within a few days. But for now, thank you very much for watching. Thanks for all the comments. Stay tuned to social media for information about more videos coming your way. And until then, be good. I will see you soon. Bye now.